How's it, connectors? Welcome to another fresh episode of Staying Connected, where we seek stories that connect us to one another. There's too much emphasis on differences that we forget that we are just one big community. We seek to learn about life lessons, experiences, setbacks, and vulnerabilities of one another. We're here to share through open and honest conversations. Um, this is Scott. Let's go ahead and jump into it. So Kenny is still out, but today we have a special guest, one of my good friends, Alec. How are you doing, Alec?
Doing pretty good. How about yourself?
Not too bad myself on this fine Saturday morning. Just a little bit about Alec, and you can add on more to it. From what I know, amazing dancer, wonderful listener, academic, and of course, one of the finest dentists the island of Hawaii can offer. Anything else I'm missing?
A little bit exaggerated, but I think you got it for the most part. Avid video gamer. I think that's pretty apt.
Do you have your own Twitch channel?
No, I do not. No, I do not. Just solo for me.
Cool. Have you considered getting into that?
Nah, I don't think I have the time or the character really.
So what are you playing right now?
Actually got into Red Dead Redemption 2. It's been pretty fun. Yeah.
I watched some walkthroughs about that. Again, that's pretty cool.
Yeah, I played the first one a few years back, and finally this one went on sale. So I was like, I got to get into it.
I'm a big fan of like open world environments. You ever watch or play Ghost of Tsushima?
No, I haven't, but I love the style, like the art and stuff. It looks really cool.
Oh yeah, symmetry is amazing.
Yeah.
But I wanted to talk about, let's go back a decade when you're still in high school. While I was doing research on this, I found it very interesting. I just wanted more context on this. So what is Serenade Lemonade? And can you talk a little bit about that?
Well, that is turning back the hands of time there, but Serenade Lemonade was a business competition. I was in my senior year of high school, actually, at Iolani, and our economics professor proposed this little competition. We would write up a business plan with all kind of the economics behind everything, and drafting all of that and proposing that. And then the other side was making a booth, making a product, which is lemonade, and then trying to pitting us against a bunch of other booths and seeing who comes out on top. We had a pretty good plan. It was a bunch of my close friends from high school, and to kind of set ourselves apart, we had a lot of musicians in the group, not myself included. I was just there for pretty face,
The marketing.
Yeah, the marketing. Yeah, you need a good face in front. No, but we made these virgin mojitos and a little bit of mint and salted rims. So it was really cool. We spent so much money just on supplies and stuff, and tinkering around, making sure the ingredients were mixed right, and then physically building the booth as well out of nails and wood and stuff. So it was a whole project. We met up every weekend, but on the day that the competition was happening, it was on the baseball field of the high school at Iolani, and we brought bongos, we brought a guitar, and just one of the members played the saxophone, so he was playing the saxophone, and we were playing music and stuff, jamming out, serving mojitos. It was pretty good. Got to learn a lot about teamwork, a whole lot of teamwork, and we actually got to score a spot on the morning news, so we were able to kind of promote the competition itself, get a lot of people just let them know what's going on, and also for ourselves get a little bit of promotion too. So nice, two birds with one stone.
Oh, very nice. Was there an objective, whoever made the most money, that was the team that won?
Yeah, it was based off of two things, the soundness of the business plan and how complete it was, but also who was able to pull in the most revenue. We came in second, which there was a little bit of controversy there, but it was rigged. I saw it. It was live.
Who was first?
This other group from a few of the people which are in my econ class actually, so we had some bad blood. It was just fun, friendly competition. And there was actually a point where they had a stage, and each booth would have some time to go up on stage, talk about their group and what kind of lemonade they're selling. And we actually went up on stage, talked about it for a little bit, but also just danced and played music. So it was actually pretty sick. It was actually a really good time. And even though we came in second, I think the experience was totally worth it. We'd definitely do it again.
No, that's the one thing that I always appreciate about private school. I didn't go to a private school myself, but just hearing anecdotes from everyone that did. A lot for public school, it's a lot of theory. It's a lot of theoretical things. Like we would talk about doing a business plan, but we wouldn't jump into actually building a stand. We wouldn't actually have these events where we'll have to promote ourselves, sell something, create the actual product. So, I want to go back to your time at Iolani. Like, why Iolani? Was that your decision? What's the biggest takeaway you got from like going there?
Yeah, it's actually an interesting story. I started in kindergarten at Marinol, actually. And when my older brother in fifth grade, after fifth grade, he transferred out. He actually applied to two schools, Punahou and Iolani. He got waitlisted at Punahou. So we're like, all right, and guess we're going to Iolani since he got accepted there. So every time one of the younger brothers completed fifth grade, we applied to Iolani, and then we, subsequently got in. So that's how we got, two there. Marinol, I had some misgivings about, it was a great school, but super small, like really, really small. Mm-hmm. And we're always used as Punahou's parking lot in the Punahou Carnival. So I had some misgivings about Punahou already. But, Iolani, definitely you could tell, even though it wasn't, super big like Kamehameha or Punahou, it definitely had a lot of resources behind it. Like a lot of, big buildings, a lot of good, in class, like, software and hardware. They had like the smart boards when I was just started to get there. Really, really good campus too. Overall, definitely expensive though. It was actually cheaper for me to go to UH Manoa than it was to Iolani. So that was a nice little break for us too.
Kelly has mentioned to me that the one thing they encourage students at Iolani was a lot of free thinking for yourself. How much of that were you exposed to at Iolani? Or is there like, what's the curriculum there? Because for someone in public school, we follow a certain curriculum, right? There wasn't too much of the free thinking, like how life actually is. There's always like, you got to do this from A to B. There's really no flexible time for you to really be creative and pursue your passions. So did you get a lot of that at Iolani?
It's hard to compare since, I didn't go to public school, but I found that, we were able to choose what classes, like electives, we wanted to do, like in terms of the arts, but there was also some variation in terms of like the English classes in 10th grade. You could choose between like British literature, American literature. In senior year, actually, I have a funny story about that. Because Iolani, they come off as, and they actually are very prestigious. They try to push the students to achieve as much as they can. But in my senior year, I knew I was going to UH Manoa already. And not to say that's like a bad thing, but I didn't really need the AP credits and all that stuff. I took AP Econ just because I was always into business, the business of money and stuff. But I took AP English as well, just because I wanted to, get a little step ahead. My older brother did it. It's like, oh, and I qualified to take the class. So I was like, I'll take it. I read the book the whole summer. It was one of the worst books I've ever read. I don't even remember the name of it, but it really turned me off. And in the first week, I dropped out of the English class. And I was like, I don't want to do this. So I took instead, which has turned out to be one of the best decisions, I took Finding Poetry and Fiction and Film. And in both classes, it was very, very creative. We were able to write poems, and then we presented the poems in front of the class. And in fiction and film, obviously we watch movies and then we made movies ourselves and then presented those movies and kind of gave each other critiques and reviews about it. So in that case, definitely a lot of room for, expression and whatnot. And, we talked about the resources, and in your case, when it was more theory, they supplied us with cameras and they already had video editing software on the computer. So it was really, really cool to be able to have those resources. And you actually might remember this from Sherm. I come off as a very, very serious person, I think.
Yes.
Yeah, definitely. I'm actually not like that at all. In my personal life, I'm very goofy and whatnot, but I'm very, back then, especially, I was introverted, especially in high school. But in 7th grade, we had to choose an elective, the arts. So we had to do like, hula, band, orchestra, choir, and none of those really suited me because I wasn't really instrumentally inclined. I didn't like to dance in front of people. But the one that would be the least intrusive on my introvertedness was theater. And I actually did theater from 7th, 8th, and 9th grade. And in 9th grade, after 9th grade, actually, you got to switch out of a elective. And I switched to ceramics, which is something that was very interesting for me. And because at that point, I was kind of thinking about what I wanted to do, and dentistry was something I was kind of looking at, getting the dexterity going with the ceramics, I think was a good shot.
I have a million questions.
Oh, for sure.
Let's go one by one. Okay, let's
For
go
sure.
to the poem. Do you have a favorite poem that you've written in that class?
I don't remember, and I actually tried to look for them, but I think they were saved on my school email, and they've been since deleted. They've been wiped. But man, there
What was it
was
about?
one.
Do you remember what was it about?
We wrote several poems, and there are different prompts for the poems. I think one of my most memorable ones, though, was we had to. It was actually a really cool exercise. So Iolani was very close to, I believe, Kapahulu, where they had the Jamba Juice by the Alawai golf course. And so our prompt was walk as a class, and the teacher came with us. We walked from Iolani to the Jamba Juice to get Jamba Juice, and then walk all the way back. And that was your prompt. Just whatever you see, whatever you heard, experienced, write about it. And I put on this album because I was the kid who always had his headphones in, listening to his iPod. And I listened to this album by Ratatat, a very instrumental band, and just like took everything in and wrote a poem about it, like about the puddle in the ground, how it reflected the sky, the juxtaposition of the green golf course to the houses on the left. And I don't know, that was it stood out to me. It was a very interesting prompt, and people liked my interpretation of it when it came time to present.
See, I wish, the public school I went to, we were neighbors. I went to Kawakim. I wish they encouraged us to, do those type of things. Instead, I was just wasting time chasing girls. But going on to theater, that's something that I also did. I was a little shy, I was a little reserved, and I was always drawn into theater, which, if you think about it, it's very it contradicts what an introvert would do, because you're kind of exposing yourself. You're playing a new character. I guess in some ways, gives you an alter ego to your introvertedness. Do you have any specific plays that you remember doing, or anything that really helped you overcome your introvertedness?
Well, if anything, theater give me some anxiety actually, because I was super introverted, but I felt the most comfortable when there was a lot of people on stage, and like I was talking as part of a group and not so much the face or like the leader of the act. I was always like a supporting character, which is something I really enjoyed, which now that I think about it, maybe leads a little bit into my psyche and my inner workings as a person. But I think more so just like in theater, we had do a lot of exercises, a lot of different scenes, situations, and just acting it out, improv and stuff. And that just helped little by little kind of chip away at that introverted, like, closed off kind of personality I had developed at that point for whatever reason, honestly. I don't know why, but I guess some people are just different.
Did you guys do a lot of Shakespeare, or what kind of plays did you guys do?
Oh, thankfully, no. I'm people who are close to me know that I do not like Shakespeare at all. Like, I did not opt to take British literature. I'm not a fan of it. It's so hard to read and understand. It was, I don't even know where they pulled the plays from, but they're very simple, very straightforward, nothing too high order, very, very straightforward.
Okay. Okay, so let's move on forward. You're at UH. So from what I've heard for a bunch of Iolani people is there is a push to go to mainland colleges. So why did you decide to stay in Hawaii?
I talk about this all the time with patients. And around 11th grade, I kind of got the idea I wanted to go into dentistry. And I wanted to go to the dental school that my father went to, which is Creighton, and which actually has a strong pipeline of Hawaii students as well, to both the undergrad and the dental school as well. So I was looking to go to Creighton because that's what a lot of my close friends were doing at the time. They're applying to Creighton with the intent to go there. And I was between Creighton and UH Manoa. And I talked to my parents about it, and they said, it makes sense because if you go to Creighton undergrad, you'll have a pretty good shot of getting into the dental school. You'll be adjusted to the environment and whatnot. But they talked about the out-of-state tuition, and I kind of looked into it, and it was very competitive to get a scholarship there as well. So they said, if you stay at home, you won't have student debt coming out of UH Manoa, because it's cheaper to get into or to attend UH Manoa than Iolani. So that was a big plus. And I thought about it, and I was like, yeah, it makes sense. I have a car here. I live at home, which is really nice. Don't have to do the dorming situation, which I had misgivings about after visiting the freshman dorms. So from then, I felt a certain type of way because I had two groups of friends. One group of friends that was going to Creighton, and another one that was going to UH. But I definitely don't regret it, and I would do it over again for many reasons. If you don't mind me rambling a little bit.
Oh, no, go.
Yeah, I'm just gonna go. To kind of touch on what you said quickly, though, there is a strong push. I'm sure at private schools in general, but at Iolani, they really push you to attend the highest, level of, prestige in terms of what a college has. And, having graduated college and graduated graduate school, I found that, and I'm sure people may disagree, but unless you're willing to work in a certain area, like if, for example, you want to work in Seattle, then you maybe want to attend a school there, so you have connections and develop connections. But if you're going to the mainland to study, and it's not because they have a really prestigious program or it's where you want to work and you're going to come back here and work, I feel like sometimes it doesn't really make that much sense. So in terms of how much student loans you accrue. And I know a lot of people who have done that and came back, and they talk about the college experience, but I think the college experience is what you make of it, and it's not so much moving away. It breeds a certain level of independence, but there's a lot of things you could do at home, especially in college. And not to say that, Iolani is so much better than everywhere else, but because it was touted as a college preparatory school, I found that the workload and the material was actually a lot more manageable in college. And it actually allowed me a lot more flexibility to kind of enjoy myself, explore myself, meet new people. And I think that more so than theater and anything else was what allowed me to kind of break out of my introverted shell and to kind of, meet a lot of different people, because Iolani, they had a kind of certain sect of people, I'd say. To kind of put it lightly, well-off Asians, I think was how I would put it. Very, very smart people too, very, good student athletes too, but definitely that demographic was kind of prevalent. Not just Asians though, all certain type of people. But in UH, I was able to meet, different people who kind of changed my way of thinking. Uh, got to see a lot of different perspectives, and uh, I'm sure we'll touch on this more, but the business club we're both a part of definitely was, I say myself, it was probably my favorite part about going to UH was sure.
I would agree. I would agree. A lot of good times there. Um, I want to touch upon what you said about deciding on dentistry when you were in what, 11th grade. So
Yeah.
what led to that? Was just being around your dad, or what made you go towards that path?
Yeah. So, growing up, I wasn't good at sports, terrible at sports. My parents coached my soccer team, the AOISO team, and I came off the bench last, not because they didn't want to be, have nepotism, but because I was like the worst on the team every single time. And my only real passions were listening to music on my iPod, like, Blink 182, all that good stuff, and then playing video games on my Game Boy, Xbox, and such. And I was thinking, in 10th grade, I was like, what should I be thinking about in terms of my future? And my dad being a dentist, he never pushed any of myself or my three brothers to become a dentist. He always said, the avenue's there if you're willing to take it. Yeah. And I kind of mulled it over and I said, let me shadow you for a summer. And I shadowed him and I was like, yeah, I can see myself doing this, because I couldn't see myself being in a cubicle, attending meetings, doing presentations and such. It's not really, I still have that huge introverted side to myself, and that sort of lifestyle or, work operation didn't really click with me as much. But having that one-on-one, patient conversation, assuring them, and treating them, obviously, I think there was a lot of gratification there as well, being able to help people out. And I thought that was really important. And seeing my dad and watching him actually, and not just hearing about it when, we come home from school, being able to witness how he does it and how he manages patients, I was like, yeah, this is something I'm interested in. And from then on, just that was always kind of the background goal, because I was actually a finance major and I had the intent to go into UH as a business major and not a science major, which isn't too common. It's getting a little bit more common. I had a few classmates in dental school who were business majors and such, but definitely at the time I got weird looks when we had to do those introductions at the beginning of each semester. And he goes, "Oh, what's your major? What do you want to be?" I was like, "Oh, I want to. I'm a major in finance, but I want to be a dentist." And I always got weird looks every single time.
One thing about your dad, and I've been going to him for, I believe, over a decade now. He has this ability to just make you feel at home. He has, of course, he has a smooth voice that just like relaxes you, and so handsome, right? He just knows how to make people feel good and at home and relax. Another thing that I appreciate about him is, and you do it too, you make people feel very welcome and you educate people, which before I came to your practice, you and your dad's practice, I had this other dentist who wouldn't say a damn word. He would just like pick at my teeth and tell me to floss more or tell me to not smoke or whatever. But that's it, it like the interaction, yeah, sure, it was like 10-20 minutes shorter, but then like, I didn't feel any love. I didn't feel like this person cared about me. And when I came to you guys, that's why I felt every single time from the moment I opened the door. And I'm not. Then you can speak more about this. Is that the culture, and what did your dad teach you so far? I know you're still very new in your journey as a dentist, but what's the biggest lesson he's taught you so far?
Honestly, the biggest lesson he's taught me was just, you know, treating others with compassion. But when it comes to the aspect of dentistry, he hasn't really taught me anything. If you look at it that way, actually watching him, from shadowing him and, helping out in the summers during college, I would sometimes help him out at the office and just kind of assist. Just watching how he handled patients and how he, like you said, it's more than just telling you what to do. It's, why you're doing this, what would be better. and managing expectations as well. We could do a filling here, but sometimes it may lead to further complications, and just setting expectations and goals. He covered it from top to bottom, and on top of what you said, that atmosphere. Many patients have said that our office, is not the biggest office, it's not the most technologically advanced, but they say that the people here feel like they enjoy being here and they enjoy helping patients out. And it starts at the front door with the receptionist. She can talk your ear off
Mm-hmm.
and she can talk about anything, and she's very, very welcoming, very understanding, very helpful. And when you get to the back, we're very welcoming as well, and we try to have people just be very comforting and very willing to help, but also letting that when you need your health to be managed a little bit better at home in terms of your oral health, you could step it up, but doing that in a tactful way, which I think is really important. One thing to touch on as well, I was actually, among my three brothers, the worst in the dental chair. I would cry, I would not cooperate. Like, my dad would literally scold me and sometimes yell at me in the chair because I was just not a fan of it. And that actually kind of bled over into my treatment style, because I try to emphasize comfort and making sure the patient is comfortable. Now, obviously, I need to do what I need to do in the amount of time I'm given, but I'm always making sure that the patient is comfortable in the chair. And just also watching my dad, learning how to educate people. And one thing that patients told me in dental school, because in dental school we have a 4-year program, and 2 years are in the classroom and then 2 years in the clinic. And both some of the dentists and some of my patients have said that my chairside manner is really, really good. I'm always kind of prioritizing the patient, making sure that they're comfortable and taken care of, while obviously providing good treatment. And all of that is just derived completely from watching my dad. But he never said a word in terms of how to treat patients. He always just let me watch, and without reservation. He never said you have to do this, this, and this. He just watched and was a good example and a good role model. And he has been a good role model since growing up, and my parents raising me. So it's always just watching. And I think that's what made it a little bit easier to catch on to, is because I was able to watch, and like you said, I'm a good listener, and it comes from just kind of taking things in and just experiencing it myself.
Is there anything that I know you've only, how long have you practiced officially?
Officially as a dentist in Hawaii, it's been about 8, going on my 9th month here.
Okay. So what was the biggest struggle you had when you first started, and is there anything you have any big goals you want to achieve?
Biggest hurdle, probably a lot of patients who speak only Filipino and Vietnamese. So I've actually been picking up on some Filipino and Vietnamese dental related words, and I get some compliments on them. But more so in dental school, you have one patient for 4 hours more often than not. And there's like 2 sessions, one in the morning, one in the afternoon. So you're seeing 2 patients a day, basically. And at the practice, you're seeing like 10 plus a day if things are pretty busy. So just that, the timing and getting the being efficient, but also making sure each patient is given the time that they need, and their questions are answered. And some patients talk more than others. Some patients honestly don't really care. Like, I'll educate them, they'll be like, okay. And honestly, as long as they know and I tell them, then that's all I can hope for. Obviously hope that they step up to brushing and flossing, but I actually really enjoy when patients ask more, not when it's like crazy questions or anything like that. Like, is 5G affecting my teeth? It's like, no, not questions like that. more so like, why does flossing work, or how does fluoride work? And that's when I know, or I feel that they're engaged, and it makes me a lot happier to kind of, educate
Oh, for sure. You definitely did that when I was there.
them.
What's left to learn for you? Besides, I know you're just starting out, but is there anything that you want to learn in particular, like
There's a
surgery or
whole
anything?
lot. Oh yeah. I mean, I've we do a lot of stuff in the dental school, but I've kind of stepped away from some of those things, like doing root canals and such, because it's very, very It's a very complex procedure and very delicate as well. And I certainly could do those when we take out the root canal system and fill it back up. But if I'm not doing it within a certain amount of time, it's not efficient. And basically that's where my dad will kind of handle those situations on top of taking out, wisdom teeth. I do want to start doing those down the line, but for the most part right now, I'm just trying to, get my bearings, and I think I've got it pretty well down, but just mastering what I'm doing right now in terms of doing fillings, crowns and such, making sure those are up to speed. And once I feel confident in those, kind of start those more challenging cases when it comes to extracting teeth and also doing root canal. So that's kind of I'd say more short-term goal. Long-term goal is definitely to become, I guess, a good replacement for my dad. He's not getting any younger and I'm kind of starting to come into my own. So just making sure I'm ready whenever that transition occurs. That's probably the more long-term goal here, which is kind of comprised of those short-term goals that I talked about.
Does he have a year or number in mind that he wants to keep going for? Or?
I don't know. I don't know if my mom will let him retire anytime soon. Definitely playing it by ear, but he'll be here for a good bit more.
I hope so. Hawaii needs all the best dentists they can. Let's go back to college, and you mentioned SHRM, Society for Human Resources Management. How did you get involved? Because I know your brother was involved with that. We need to get him on the podcast. But yeah, how did you get involved in that?
Yeah, Aloha chapter. Don't forget Aloha chapter.
Yes, Aloha chapter. We're gonna plug them.
Yeah, actually, Adrian was obviously my route to get in, because he was president. He was very involved in the club. And I was actually choosing between another club, DSP, and SHRM, because I had a friend who was in DSP. And I was like, ooh, maybe I should join them. It looks kind of fun. Business frat sounds cool. But because, that route was right there, and, Adrian had a lot of connections, it'd be very easy for people to know who I am and kind of relate easier if they know Adrian. So it's kind of like a no-brainer for me. But another thing that kind of drove me to join that club was because as a dentist, you're a business manager. You have a lot to, you're in the business of managing patients, your assistants. And, I was doing the finance major on the side of taking my dental school prerequisites. But I also thought that getting a kind of an HR perspective, kind of a managerial perspective would be valuable for me in terms of just kind of not so much knowing the ins and outs of human resources, but just getting a breadth and getting their mindset and perspective when it comes to those sorts of things. And just trying to take a holistic perspective to my education as opposed to drilling down on one certain topic, so to speak. Yeah.
I know it was more of a joke that, a running joke for sure, but we always refer to you as Adrian's brother,
Oh yeah.
Of course, now you're your own man, but back then, did it affect you when people said that?
No, it was actually it actually helped a lot because I was still a little bit introverted and more serious. So people have told me I have a very hard exterior, sometimes hard to break through, a little bit of an RBF going on too sometimes. So it definitely helped having that familiarity. It wasn't too bad, but once I started to come into my own and meet new people, I met a lot of close friends who I'm still close with today. That one kind of got wiped out, and then became Alec, the fundraising director, and then VP, and then yeah.
So if you were to go back, what would you change about what you did with your time at SHRM?
Honestly, I don't think I'd do anything different. I had so much fun. I especially when I was on board, you had to attend all the events, but I attended a lot of events when I was just a general member as well. But everything I experienced, even the mistakes I made and the stuff that I could have done better on, I'd still do the same thing, mainly because I learned lessons from that. And, experiencing the successes and the failures are very important, in my opinion, because I always think that there's something to be learned from either of those things. there are a few times I was late to some events, so maybe I'd wake up sooner.
Or you were punctual today.
Yes, very much so.
Well, no, back then I was the PR director, the PR VP or whatever. Anyways, that was a long time ago. But I don't think they have that position now. They removed it. But I wish I could have create more like content and really push SHRM to be, like when you hear of like Shiler business clubs, I want them to think of us. No, I wish I could have pushed more content. I wish we could have gotten better equipment so we can start to do that. Because I think when we were shooting executive board profiles, like we had this really, really crappy camera that just like takes out all the wind. And partly my fault because I didn't really have a game plan. Kent was helping me. Such.
Yeah. Oh yeah, I remember that.
Yeah, so you and Kent really carried the team. I still remember one of the more popular videos was like it was the one with you like dancing in it.
Oh my God. Some people still bring it up to this day, and I just cringe because I hate watching myself dance, hate hearing myself sing and all that stuff. So I was just like, oh God, no, don't bring it up. But fun times, definitely fun times.
For real. Okay. Let's go to some questions. I have a whole bunch of questions for you. This one especially is from Kelly.
Oh. Ooh.
Okay, so her question is, what's more effective? Is it floss and then brush, or brush then floss? And if Listerine really helps?
Ooh, okay, I got you here. I like to tell patients that they're coming out with new dental products every year, and people want to get the best ones, the most expensive ones. I tell patients, whatever routine you do, whatever products work best, whatever helps you establish good oral hygiene habits and practices, do that. Whether it's flossing first or flossing after, just do whatever makes it the easiest for you to do that every single day, because no amount of different techniques or different products will beat out established routines. And I think that's the most important, because it's the hardest to develop, because it's very much on the patient side alone. That being said, I'm a floss first kind of guy, because I like to get anything stuck in between out first, and then brush so it feels nice and clean.
What about Listerine?
And Listerine, oof. It since it does contain like alcohol, it can definitely help eliminate some of the bacterial load for sure. Just because kind of rinse it out, that mechanical kind of flushing and feeling clean. Definitely not something you would do alone. Instead of brushing, flossing at the end of the night, you'll just use Listerine. It's like, yeah, I'm good. Killed the bacteria. No, it doesn't work like that.
So
more good adjunct.
More supplemental.
Yeah, supplemental, definitely as an adjunct. And more so, and also, especially if you're a bad breath person, definitely good, especially for the people around you. But since we have masks on anyways, it's not too big of a concern.
For sure. So consistency is more important in routine.
Definitely.
Okay. So do you have any advice for someone getting in your field?
That's tough, especially nowadays with the pandemic. Across the board, everything's harder. But having someone, in your family definitely helps. Having like a childhood dentist that you've kind of grown up with is a huge plus, because they're a lot more open to you shadowing them and just kind of like learning. Just basically having an avenue for you to learn and kind of watch, observe, shadow. That's a huge plus. Not only for admissions, but if you do get into dental school, having that prior exposure is really, really helpful. It goes, it pays dividends. I'd also say, obviously taking your prerequisites, but one thing my father told me, and what some people have commiserated, is that doing a science major definitely helps because it gives you a strong science background, which is necessary to get into dental school. But it doesn't really help you once you get out of dental school, so to speak, or once you're starting the clinic for that matter. Having a business background, and even though it wasn't too specific to like, managing a practice or whatever, being able to take business courses that were kind of, personal finance, and, going to SHRM, learning that side, just having that breadth of knowledge is something that they don't really teach in dental school in terms of business acumen, managing a practice. They talk about insurance and such, but a lot of that stuff, a lot of the business side of dentistry, you learn on the job, and you learn and by making mistakes and whatnot. But I'd recommend taking a look and not looking off doing a major that you want, but also a major that you can justify to a dental school as to say, this is why I took this. I think it will help me, not just for dental school, but beyond. And I think that forward-looking mentality and that level of thought that you've given to what you're pursuing, I think that'll go a long way as well.
Is there like a community or a group for dentists? You know how SHRM has their human resources group. Is there one for dentistry here?
At UH, oh, a funny story about that. I don't know if they still have one. They might, but when I was applying to dental school and such and getting ready for that, I looked it up. The only really established one was a dental hygiene society, because dental hygiene, they have a school at UH, and different from being a dentist. So they had another group, a very small, almost non-official group that would meet in the back room of the Safeway off the Pulley. And I was like, what? And, apparently they have speakers come and talk and stuff, but I was just thinking, not really what I want to do, especially because I was doing SHRM stuff on the side as well. And it looked like it was very touch and go, maybe not as well managed because they didn't have a real like page or anything like that to like email them, and there was no real other avenue. I didn't even hear about them. So luckily I had a close friend who was applying to dental school at the same time. He was in college at the mainland, and they had a pretty established dental kind of counselor who would kind of help prospective dental school applicants. And he basically relayed all that information to me and kind of kept me in the loop. So it was very, very helpful. But yeah, not really looking to go on a back room of a Safeway up the Pulley,
I think it's a calling for you to start one. Start a chapter in Hawaii.
Oh,
Unite
gosh.
all of dentists together.
Oh boy. Yeah, maybe in a few years. Yeah.
For sure. Okay. How about the worst advice that you've received from someone you're feeling? I can share one. When I first started in physical strength and conditioning, the one thing that they would always tell us is, oh, you got to learn everything about the human body, how it moves, different muscles, the different skeleton systems, the different ways that the body moves and such. And yeah, it sounds good when you say, oh yeah, it's always good to learn about everything. But I find that to not be as effective as learning how to communicate with your clients, learning, look how much knowledge I have. Let me throw all this jargon and let me throw all this exercise science terminology towards you. All they care about is just getting fit, losing fat. So the more important thing was, how do I take the knowledge that I have and convey it in a way that it makes sense for them? And basically, how do I make people feel good about themselves so that they come back and get the repetition, get that consistency? Because that's where the results are. Yeah, that's supplemental to know all this knowledge about the body and how exercises work. But if you can't make someone feel good and make them come back and let them enjoy the process, then it doesn't really make sense, How about for you? Worst advice?
I like your take on that, by the way. Worst advice, I haven't really gotten, in my mind, bad advice because I try to surround myself with people that I would actually listen to, and if they were wanting to give me bad advice, they probably wouldn't be too close to them. But was trying to think of one. Really, the only one I can think of right now seems kind of minor, but I think it's something that is important to be touched on. I had a group of friends at college who would frequently skip class, and one thing that one of them said one time was, "Didn't you just have an exam in that class? Oh, just skip it because you're just reviewing the test and going over the new section." And I was just like, man, that's one of the worst mindsets because one, you're reviewing the test, which is important because it could come up later on the final, but also like, on top of, getting us a head start on the new section or being there for the new section, it builds upon that and set yourself up for failure. And also just, especially when you're paying yourself through college and you skip class, you're just throwing money away, for no reason, just because you can get lunch early and whatnot. But everyone has different priorities and different mindsets when it comes to things. But that kind of helped me kind of differentiate, the type of people I wanted to be around. And that was kind of a key moment for me because that's when I started to hang out with my dental or my business school friends a lot more because they're a lot more like-minded, a little bit more motivated. They wanted to go to class and learn and whatnot. And that moment definitely solidified, like, I want to surround myself with people who would tell me to go to class if I felt like skipping, and surrounding yourself around people who didn't want to go to class or wasn't that interested in the education, they're just there. That would definitely not bring me down, but kind of demotivate me as well, because you're the sum of the closest people around you, so to speak. So that's one thing that kind of stuck out in my mind. And it wasn't so much the advice itself, it was more so the realization behind it that let me kind of learn more about myself and what I wanted to do and the kind of people I would want around me.
Yeah, that leads me into my next question of, since this podcast is all about building relationships, do you have a certain, and you touched upon that, do you have a certain philosophy or criteria when it comes to selecting friends and acquaintances? And I think before I let you answer, that makes, you are the sum of the people around you. And I've noticed over the years, whenever I tell certain friends a passion or something that I'm doing or a goal that I'm doing, if that person is just blindly saying, yeah, that's awesome, or no, that sucks, I find that most of the time I don't get much from that. Instead, the times where I get the most out of it is when they ask me, oh, why do you want to do that? They start asking me questions because they're curious about the process. They're curious about my motivation behind things. So I'm just curious about, for you, how do you set the criteria for that?
It's something I learned over the years. In high school, I wasn't a social butterfly by any means, but I had a lot of friends, but it was more so because I was lukewarm for the most part, not too, judgmental or anything like that, which is a good thing, but definitely try to fade into the paint, not make too big of a fuss. So I kind of actually had a few different friend groups, but as time went on, as I got into college and kind of solidified, whittled down my friend group, I found it was not so much the quantity to make myself feel less alone, it was the quality. And even now I have a very small group of friends, and it's not even like a whole group. It's a lot of people from, just who I've met through life. And definitely straightforwardness is huge for me. Like, I don't want anything sugar coated. Like, I want it, it is how it is. Like, I just want it right there, then and there. And, obviously truthfulness, I have to have a certain level of trust in you, but also it's not even having the same mindset. Cause I told this before, like, I don't want to be friends with yes men, basically, just kind of like what you said. You want people to kind of have different perspectives, but it's a lot different from people who have different perspectives, but who are more constructive about it, and not so much, I guess, on the other end of the spectrum of a yes man who are just doubting because they aren't willing to see your side or your perspective of things. I think that's really important. Yeah. So it's kind of like two sides of the same coin almost. You don't want someone who's a yes man or woman, but you also don't want someone who isn't willing to see other perspectives, because what it's maybe a rude way to put it, but what more do you have to gain from either of those people if they, if they don't have an opinion either way and just support you regardless, which isn't inherently a bad thing. And on the other side, a person who, is set in their ways, not willing to learn. And if you don't really agree with them, then it's kind of, kind of a moot point at that point,
I agree. Just a couple more questions because I'm conscious about the time. So who do you think is the most successful person in your life? And you can define success in any way you want.
I'd say my parents, definitely my parents. Just a little quick backstory. Uh, they both moved from the Philippines from very impoverished families when they were young, when they were kids, actually. My dad went to McKinley, and my mom went to Bradford. Was it Bradford? She just went to another school at that time, and they both just had to realize that Asian immigrant, kind of work ethic. I've talked about this with some patients that us second generation Asians, we never really, we're a little bit more spoiled because our parents grinded nose to the grindstone and just hustled to get to where they are. And my parents, who were able to kind of have, 4 kids, provide, be well provided for us, and provide us in a good household, raise us well. And, they have their own little family dental practice. I think that's tough to beat. It's really tough to beat. It's not so much about the monetary side of it. It certainly helps being able to provide and living in comfort, but we definitely don't live lavishly. My dad always says, as a dentist, he never looked to live, a rich lifestyle. He just wanted to be comfortable. And we definitely are. And that comfort is in terms of, having, food on the table, shelter over our heads, but also having a really good family dynamic and relationship. And in that regards, I think they've went above and beyond. And just thinking about them coming from the Philippines and them kind of working their way up from, when they came here to Hawaii, where they had no connections at all, basically. I think that's something to be remarked on, but also I think that's the immigrant story right there. I think that's the American dream more so than, growing up in the suburbs of, the mainland. I think finding your way here and making your own path and living life your own way, I think that's something that should be touched on more.
Yeah, for sure. People just don't understand that for my parents, they came from Vietnam, right? And it's a communist country. And I think a lot of people are oblivious to the fact that if you haven't been in a communist country, you don't know what it's like for the government to control everything that you own, how you think, wherever you do. So the ceiling is capped for you when you're in those countries. So for someone to think about, oh, if I go to America, I can change my life in generations just by working hard. It's something that's inconceivable to them, coming from like a country like Vietnam, and it keeps me very humble for sure. So to hear my parents, they didn't complain, they didn't curse at like, oh, why was I born with this fate. Instead, they just focus on the more important goal, is their kids, and the sacrifice. We always talk about, oh, and I'm gonna pay my parents back, but the truth of the matter is you can't. You can't go through what they did. The only thing you can do is just pay it forward to the next generation and cherish the time that you have left with your family. Okay. So one more question before I let you go, Alec. You have a 30-second PSA to broadcast any message to the world. Language doesn't matter, it's translated. What would it be?
Stay in school, brush your teeth, floss once daily, brush your teeth with fluoridated toothpaste, skip that charcoal stuff. It's not good for your enamel. Say please and thank you, respect your parents, and live life your own way, in a way that isn't harmful to yourself or anyone else. Just covering a really broad
No.
perspective there.
No, I agree. I agree. Yeah. You want to plug in any social media? You want to plug in your practice?
We're
You
more
get
word
you,
of mouth. I don't think we need any
tomorrow.
plugs, but tune in for more episodes of Staying Connected. And I actually visited Eric Ma's store the other day, Harbor's Vintage. Check that store out. They have some dope pieces there.
Where are they at? They're on
Is it
Baratania,
King? Yeah, Britannia thing. Across
next
from the
to.
Safeway.
Yeah, Eric's a
Yeah,
dope guy. I need to have him on. He's
you
built
should.
quite. He's built. I need to reach out and talk to him.
Yo,
He's
yo,
built quite a store. I'm very
yeah,
impressed. I remember when he was just grinding through and just selling out his car or something or
yeah.
something. So I love it when my friends succeed. I love it when people have success stories. Okay. Other than that, thank you very much, Ak, for spending your time with us. We'll definitely need to have you on more. This is really fun. This is really fun. I really enjoy talking with you.
Yeah, thank you for having me. Yeah, it's the first time I've been on a podcast. It was cool. It's a cool talk. Hopefully next time, if I do come on, Kenny will be here. You know, a little bit more insight into different conversations.
Yeah, for sure, for sure. Yeah. Other than that, thank you everyone for listening. We're on Spotify, we're on YouTube, Instagram. Yeah. Um, thank you very much, Alec, once again, and thank you everybody. Take care.
See you.